Welcome back to another Mainly Hoops podcast episode. We got another Big 12 preview. We're diving into the Cincinnati Bearcats and their transfer portal moves over the offseason. We'll start out with Marcus. Marcus, what are you thinking about the Bearcats?
I mean, Cody, I know you probably would like to just rip Wes Miller for. I don't know if we've got enough time
We
to
don't.
to go on that rant, but like it's shocking. As we kind of talked about throughout the season, it's like, why is Wes Miller still even employed by Cincinnati? Um, you were ready to have him kicked to the curb at what, probably game one of Big 12 play.
Yeah,
Like you
mostly
were,
just because he made me look bad. I had them as like a dark horse Final Four team because I thought the offense was going to really improve, and then I forgot who was on the sidelines. So, maybe maybe it's more my fault for just not knowing that he
yeah.
isn't really an offensive guru by any means, but he had some pieces on that roster to do it. But you take it away.
Yeah. As for their moves they made this offseason, um, I they just picked up a bunch of guys that have been to a lot of schools. It feels um, like Kirk Risa for one. I mean, when he's been healthy, he's been like a solid player. Like 10 points a game, can like manage an offense. So, like if he can stay healthy, um, I don't hate that pickup, but he's played 32 games now over the last two seasons combined with not just playing 9 last year at Kentucky. Um, you got Jalen Celestine. He came in from Baylor, was at Cal, 16 months ago, spent a year at Baylor. Like I don't really know what they really accomplished in this portal season. I don't like it. I don't. It feels like a very Cincinnati type off season, where they get some guys that are maybe okay and they end up being maybe okay during the season. Um, I just think that like Wes Miller has put a cap on what they can get to.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the make or break season for Wes Miller. He's going to have to make the tournament at least, which, like, what I will say about this class, or I'll speak to Krisa and Celestine first. I mean, Krisa, he can win you a ball game. He can easily take you out of a ball game. He has the most volatile game for what you classify as a true point guard, probably in the entire country. He's very high risk, high reward passer. I think he's going to be more of a secondary guard. He's going to come off the bench, play what 12 to 15 minutes on this team, I guess, depending on injuries and how guys like Day Thomas and Jizzle James bounce back from last season. Jizzle James, I mean, he made somewhat of a leap last year, efficiency wise at least, and I think Krisa behind him as a high upside shooting piece is going to help. And same with Celestine. He's probably going to be a 15, 20 minute per game guy, provide a little bit of a perimeter punch. Probably not much more than that. I don't really love him as a Wes Miller type versatile athletic defender. But for the rest of these guys, I mean, I do like the front court. I actually do. I like the combo of Jalen Haynes and Mustafa Cham up front. Especially, let's start with Cham up front. I think he's a super high upside piece. It's actually, 7'2", super athletic big that protects the rim at an elite level. Can actually shoot it a little bit or has a little bit of shooting upside. Was shot 23 for 79 last season at UCF. I think he had a little bit too much of a green light, but there's definitely upside there and a ton of potential, big time lob threat. And Jalen Haynes, the other big that they brought in, super high usage at George Mason last year. I don't anticipate him having a 30.6% usage rate, but more of like an offensive hub that isn't extremely efficient for how often he gets to the rim. So I'm not really, and there's some playmaking upside with Haynes as well, but I'm not sure if he's an offensive hub at the Big 12 level. So, and I like his defensive upside as well. He moves his feet a little bit better than your typical, 6'8", 260-pound big. He's got some length, probably close to a 7-foot wingspan. So from a defensive perspective, I like both of those pieces. And yeah, I just overall, like, with Wes Miller, he needs to kind of need to change up what you're trying to do on the offensive side of the ball. He's trying to be a little bit more transition reliant, a little more not rim reliant, because I don't really think he cares about the shot selection that his team is taking. His team had one of the worst shot diets in the entire country last year. I think they were close to leading the nation in mid-range percentage, and they were one of the worst free throw rate teams in the entire country. I think Jalen Haynes helps out in that area, but besides that, they have a lot of pieces that kind of struggle to get to the rim and struggle to finish at the rim when they get there. And like Baba Miller as well. He's a more high upside piece, good rim protector, but
other guy at his third school.
Yeah. And yeah, people always talk about he does have upside, but there comes a point where you kind of need to start showing off all of that upside on the floor. And I just don't really see it from this offense in general. It's another team. We just talked about Kansas. They're going to have a high floor because this defense is going to be great with Mustafa Cham and Jalen Haynes up front. They're going to provide rim protection along with Baba Miller, who's probably going to come off the bench. But overall, the shooting probably got worse.
Shooting's bad.
I think that got worse. I think it depends on what Sean Abayev is going to be. The 4-star freshman coming in. I haven't really looked at him all that much. I guess he might be the swing player here that kind of changes my outlook. But overall, I don't really see this team making any changes to their scheme, to their roster construction with how Wes Miller has gone about the portal so far.
Yeah, and I think also to your point about the shooting, I think that like Kirk Reese is the wild card there. Can he provide enough shooting? Last year, really, really poor year. Granted, he only played 9 games, and his role was quite a bit different at Kentucky, but he shot 26% in 17 minutes a game, which was by far his worst season in college, coming off the season before where he was 42% at West Virginia, right? And then Day Thomas is really the other efficient shooter, but he had a big jump last year, went from 28% from 3 to 40.2%. So those are really their 2 shooters. They brought in Sincere Harris from West Virginia, who can't shoot a lick, like 11% from 3 last year at West Virginia. Baba Miller is, a roughly 30% 3-point shooter over his career, I think. Jizzle James is, sub 30% as well. He's been in the 28s both years of his career. So the offense, I think, again, is just going to be very laboring unless like Wes Miller's gone to some pretty high intensity offensive coaching clinics this offseason that maybe he could dial some stuff up, but I don't see it. They're going to be relying a lot on Day Thomas and Creesa, I guess, to knock down perimeter shots, and they also aren't afraid to take tough shots, at least Thomas and Jizzle James. They're not afraid to take bad ones. So, I think that hurts their efficiency, of course, and ultimately lowers the ceiling and lowers the floor of their offense, which it's going to make them much more reliant on their defense to keep them in games. But ultimately, I think it just puts them in a very similar spot to that they were this past season, which is like middle to bottom third, like top of the bottom third of the Big 12, competing in games at home, struggling on the road, winning a couple of big ones. But I just don't see it here. I think Wes Miller is probably another name or the name of a coach that's going to be looking for a TV job in a year, maybe.
Potentially, probably CBS Sports, what we call him for him. We'll see. But I mean, even another guy Sincere Harris, he was actually one of the worst shooters in the entire country. He He was 6 of 53 from 3 last season, and
Terrific.
he was getting left wide open. Like you can other teams, you can put the opposing center on him, stand him in the paint, and while Harris is on the floor, he just completely mucks up the spacing. But I mean, I will say, like, what he lacks on the offensive end, he brings it on the defensive end. He's one of the most high energy, high motor, with good traits on the defensive side of the ball. Like he guards your best perimeter, the other team's best perimeter option, and doesn't lock him down, but he does a really nice job, and he's a really good playmaker. I mean, super long arms, can kind of protect the rim for how tall he is. He's 6'4" and has some sort of rim protection skill, and he averaged close to 2 steals per game. So I mean, I think his role is going to be more of like a defensive specialist, play 20 to 25 minutes per game, possibly. Like I think Miller it's a guy that he's going to like a lot because he likes his defensive versatility on the floor. And obviously it's going to muck up the offense a little bit. And there aren't a ton of shooting options down the line. But I mean, and then another versatile guy like Baba Miller. I do think there's going to come a time where they can play 3 bigs on the floor, because I do think Baba Miller can. I think there are times where he can play the 3 with his spot up shooting ability to go along with his ability to defend threes and even get switched on to 2s at times and hold his own. And you know those 3 guys together, Miller, Haynes, and Chom can all protect the rim. They're all pretty mobile, so I think it could work. I think their path to making the tournament is being a top 5 to 10 defense, and like because with this current offense, I still kind of see it as a outside the top 75 to even maybe outside the top 100 on the offensive end. So overall, yeah, don't like what they did, but it's going to be another decently high floor team compared to what West Miller teams usually are.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is who's going to put the ball in the hoop. You know,
probably Haynes. I guess he's going to. I mean, obviously it's going to be Jizzle James and Day Thomas in the backcourt still, and depending on what Sean Nabayev is on the offensive end, like I will say I haven't done a ton of work on looking into him yet, but and yeah, you have the option of running through Haynes in the front court, being a little bit more post up oriented, hoping he draws too, because he is somewhat of a gifted passer. He's just a little erratic with his decision making at times, but if he has a good matchup, if he's playing a smaller front court, I do think he's going to be able to provide some value as a passer and scorer.
Marcus, any final thoughts on the Bearcats?
Yeah, no, I feel like I've said my piece. I think they're just pretty capped out at what they can be. Unfortunately, I think that just comes with like being the Cincinnati Bearcats. Like they're gonna have to catch lightning in a bottle one year if they're gonna truly like be a contender.
Yeah. The thing is, like they have the money to do it. Clearly, with the guys they're bringing in, like you're bringing in a super high upside guy in Chom that a lot of programs really wanted. And I don't know, how much do you think they spent on this roster? Like Baba Miller was a high upside guy that a lot of teams wanted at least on their bench. Like, how much do you think we're spending on this entire roster? Like, or at least just on the transfers, 7-8 million, at least, maybe not more. Like, it's a roster construction issue at this point. So until West Miller wants to turn into a more offensive oriented team, or at least balance it out in some sort of way, at least maybe optimize the shooting aspect of the game a little bit more, like this team is going to be capped out. There's going to be no ceiling.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up. Thank you guys for listening to another Mainly Hoops episode, and we'll be back with some more Big 12 content.